Hello everyone, and welcome to Mighty Vids 1 True Crime. Today we are going to look into the story of Wearside Jack, the Yorkshire Ripper hoaxer who sent the police a series of letters and tapes, steering them away from the investigation and making them think the killer was a man from Sunderland, letting 4 more murders go on while the real Yorkshire Ripper, Peter Sutcliffe, was eliminated from inquiries and was able to commit his murders undetected because police in the Yorkshire area put their time into the Sunderland area. Let's go into the story of Wearside Jack, the Yorkshire Ripper hoaxer. It was now the 8th of March 1978, and the Yorkshire Ripper had already murdered at least 10 women, and that is what the police had connected him to. It was always believed there was many more. Though on this date, West Yorkshire police received the first letter of the hoaxer. It went on to be known as Wearside Jack. The letter was addressed to Detective George Oldfield, the head detective in the Yorkshire Ripper case. Coincidentally, there were several things in the letter which made the police think twice that the person was indeed the Yorkshire Ripper. The writer of the letter was talking in reference to 16-year-old Jane MacDonald, who was murdered by the Ripper a year before, which was no secret, but the reference to Preston 75, which was the murder of Joan Harrison. The police always suspected it was the Ripper, but it was never put in the public domain. And this person knew all about it, and for some reason knew it was suspected to the Ripper. Also, the letter was posted from Sunderland. Even though the writer told the police he gets around and wasn't there, it was clear they was going to look there, especially after the writer knew about the connection of Joan Harrison in 1975. Not long after the first letter, a woman's body was found laying under a mattress on waste ground, and the body had been there several weeks. The police in Sunderland told George Oldfield to take an end to the case there, because they believed it was an hoax. They thought if the writer of the letter was indeed the killer, he would have mentioned about the body. On the 4th of April 1979, the Yorkshire Ripper had killed a 19-year-old bank clerk named Josephine Whittaker while she was walking home from Halifax. The police efforts for this case were diverted for several months despite forensic evidence when West Yorkshire police received the recorded audio tape of the hoaxer taunting George Oldfield.
"I still having no luck catching me. I have the greatest respect for you, George, but Lord, you are no nearer catching me now than 4 years ago when I started. I reckon your boys are letting you down, George. They can't be much good, can they? The only time they came near catching me was a few months back in Chapeltown when I was disturbed. I warned you in March that I'd strike again. Sorry it wasn't Bradford. I'm not quite sure when I'll strike again, but it will be definitely sometime this year. I'm not sure where. Maybe Manchester. I like it there. There's plenty of them knocking about. They never learn, do they, George? I bet you've warned them, but they never listen. Well, it's been nice chatting to you, George. Yours, Jack the Ripper."
It seemed now George Oldfield was seriously felt humiliated by the hoaxer and wanted to believe he was the man they was after. Despite an expert from the FBI assuring the police it was an hoaxer, Oldfield and his team brought in a voice analyst and narrowed down that the accent of the tape was distinctive to the Castletown area of Sunderland. This led police to investigate thousands of men in the Sunderland area, obviously to no avail. Survivors of the Ripper like Olive Smelt, who had survived the Ripper attack in 1975, was 100% sure the attacker was a Yorkshireman, but police in the incident room was told by Oldfield not to take any information about a suspect if he didn't have a northeast accent. Peter Sutcliffe, the real Yorkshire Ripper, had been now interviewed by police 9 times in 5 years. 4 of these occasions he was released by police with no further inquiry because they wanted to follow the lead of a man with a Sunderland accent. In 1979, police interviewed Sutcliffe and 2 detectives became extremely suspicious that Sutcliffe was the Yorkshire Ripper and it was written in the report, but the paperwork was put aside because the accent did not match, and neither did his handwriting match to the letter. Also, coincidentally, the blood from saliva and semen found at the scene were very rare, with only 6% of people with that match. Saliva from the envelope matched the DNA found at the murder scenes also. The hoaxer had also sent a letter to the newspaper, the Daily Mirror. Oldfield was convinced the man in the tape was the Yorkshire Ripper when he was really right there under the nose of the police, and had been interviewed 9 times. Peter Sutcliffe was one of 300 people to have a £5 note that was found at the scene of the murder. Other things also matched up to Peter Sutcliffe, but the police was pinned to a Sunderland man. 3 more murders went on and 2 more women was badly attacked but survived. Then by chance Peter Sutcliffe was caught and things was about to get humiliating for George Oldfield and the West Yorkshire Police. On the 2nd of January 1980, Peter Sutcliffe was stopped by police in Sheffield with a 24-year-old prostitute. The police officer who stopped him and did a routine check was a probationary police officer and found out Sutcliffe was using false registration plates for his car. He was arrested and taken to Dewsbury Police Station in West Yorkshire. He was once again questioned in relation to the Yorkshire Ripper case, and even more things matched up to Sutcliffe being the murderer. The next day, police decided to go back to the scene where he was arrested, as Sutcliffe was allowed to slip off for a moment, claiming he was bursting for a wee. There they found a knife, a hammer and a rope. Police also found a knife in the toilet system at the police station. Sutcliffe was strip searched at the police station and was wearing an inverted V-neck jumper pulled over his legs. The V-neck exposed his genitals, but the elbows of the jumper was padded to protect his knees. This was thought to protect his knees while he kneeled over corpses. After 2 days of extensive questioning, Sutcliffe confessed to the Yorkshire Ripper murders, claiming God told him to kill prostitutes as they were filthy, and his confessions added up to what only the real Ripper would know. Sutcliffe was caught by chance, not through investigation, and Oldfield was so wrong about the Sunderland man, and more murders had happened while he wasn't looking in the right place. But the question was, who was the hoaxer and why did he do it? At the trial, Sutcliffe pleaded not guilty to 13 counts of murder on the grounds of diminished responsibility, as he said he was a tool of God and it was God's will. He pleaded guilty to 7 counts of attempted murder, and Sutcliffe was very close to getting his case dropped to diminished responsibility after 4 doctors classed him as insane, but the judge went against it, and after lengthy discussions he was found guilty of all the murders and sentenced to 20 life sentences in prison. Sutcliffe had earlier told police he felt untouchable after the audio tape because he was from Shipley and the police was out looking for a Geordie. The hoaxer Wearside Jack had made fools out of the police, had them looking in the wrong direction, and even made Sutcliffe himself even more determined to kill. George Oldfield had been off ill prior to the capture of Peter Sutcliffe, suffering from an apparent chest infection, which turned out to be a heart attack. He did not attend the trial, but said he still believed there was a connection between Sutcliffe and Wearside Jack, even though Sutcliffe had nothing to do with the tape or writing the letter. Oldfield was moved from the CID not long after, which it was said he was not being demoted but put on lighter duties because of ill health. He had a second heart attack in 1983 and retired from the police several months later. He died in 1985 at the age of 61, never knowing who Wearside Jack was or what his motives really were. Then there was a breakthrough in 2005 when police began to reopen the hoaxer case, and DNA evidence was retrieved from the gum on the envelope of the audio tape and put through the UK DNA database. The match came back to John Samuel Humble, who had been arrested and cautioned by police in 2001 for being drunk and disorderly. The odds on the match was 1 in a billion, and now police had caught the hoaxer 25 years after the first letter he had sent. John Humble was arrested on the 18th of October 2005 and was so drunk at the time of his arrest police had to wait a full day before he would sober up, and then he could be interviewed. When he woke up, he had to be told he was in the police station and why. Humble was an unemployed labourer and divorced, chronic alcoholic who, when at the time of the hoax, was living 1 mile from Castletown, where the police believed the Ripper was. The police had interviewed some of Humble's neighbours at the time, looking for the Ripper, but Humble was never interviewed. At the time of his arrest, he was living with his brother and was a broken man living in squalor. He was now 49 years old and was 22 when the hoax was made. Humble was denying at first that he was the hoaxer, but when the evidence was put to him that it was 1 in a billion, he soon started to confess that he was indeed the hoaxer. The police asked him to speak out the exact words in the audio tape. It was chilling that the voice was an exact match. He came up with many reasons why he did the hoax, like he was bored or he wanted the notoriety. He did say in the interview many times that he was ashamed of what he had done and tried to make it right by calling the police, but couldn't accept that he actually had blood on his hands. Police figured out the main reason why John Humble wanted to do the hoax. It was that he was fixated with Jack the Ripper murders in the late 19th century, and also to get back at the police. Humble had a strong hatred for the police when he was imprisoned in 1975 for assaulting a police officer and served 3 months in prison. Humble had told the truth about calling the police twice to confess at the time of the murders. The letters and the tape was an hoax, but he was not believed, just like thousands of other people calling the police at the time, claiming to be the Ripper and making hoax calls. Humble's legal team wanted to get the charges dropped to a more lenient charge of wasting police time, but the police and CPS rightly so rejected this. John Humble had blood on his hands and had to pay for his crimes. His defence showed Humble had been riddled with guilt and tried to kill himself by throwing himself off a 90-foot bridge in 1979. Humble survived the fall by landing on a boat and was severely injured and spent months in hospital. On the 21st of March 2006, John Humble was sentenced to 8 years in prison for perverting the course of justice. The murder of Joan Harrison in Preston 1975 was not linked to Peter Sutcliffe or John Humble, and nobody knows how Humble knew this murder was connected to a Yorkshire Ripper case in the beginning. Christopher Smith, aged 60, was arrested in 2008 for drink driving, and police took in a swab test, and his DNA matched the DNA found at Joan Harrison's murder scene. The police had enough evidence to charge Smith, but he died 6 days later from a terminal illness. John Humble was released from prison in 2009. He had served 4 years of his prison sentence. He was given a new identity as John Samuel Anderson. He died on the 30th of July 2019 from heart failure, which stemmed from the effects of chronic alcohol use. He was 63 years old. Thanks for watching Mighty Vids 1 True Crime. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and maybe drop us a comment in the comment section. Thank you.